Alright, this is the second part of 8.4b. So just like we simplified expressions, now we're solving 1- and 2-step equations. Alright, so for vocab, we have inverse operations, which are two operations that undo each other. So like addition and subtraction undo each other, and multiplication and division undo each other. We're also going to use reciprocals to solve equations. So reciprocals are two non-zero numbers whose product is 1. So remember, like if you have 1/3, the reciprocal of that would be 3/1. And if you multiply, you get 3/3, which is 1. Or if you want to find the reciprocal of 5, it would be 1/5. Alright, and then like terms, like we've talked about before, terms that have the same variable parts. So they have to have the same letter for the variable, and they have to be raised to the same power. Okay, so those would be like terms. These would be like terms. Right, so remember they have to be the same letter and they have to have the same index or be raised to the same power. Okay, so just like with expressions, we're going to talk about justifying what we're doing while we're solving. And the new properties that will come into play with equations are the properties of equality. So whenever it's whatever we do to one side, we do to the other, that's a property of equality. So for example, if we're subtracting 2 from both sides, that's the subtraction property of equality. Okay, so it just says that whatever, as long as we're doing both, we're doing it to both sides, it won't change the equation. Okay, so anytime we do that, that's our justification. So that would be justified by the subtraction property of equality. Or if we're adding to both sides, the addition property of equality. And so on with the other two. Okay, example 1. X minus 12 equals 3. So to get x by itself, we have to do the opposite operation. So we have to add 12 to both sides. Negative 12 plus 12, that goes away. So we're left with x equals 3 plus 12 is 15. Now remember, with any equations, you can always plug it back in and make sure that it makes the equation true. So we have to ask ourselves, is 15 minus 12 equal to 3? And since it is, we know that that's the correct solution. Alright, this time we have negative 6x equals 48. Remember, negative 6 is being multiplied by x. So to get x by itself, we're going to do the opposite of multiply and divide by negative 6 on both sides. So that goes away. 48 divided by negative 6 is negative 8. And again, we can plug it back in. So negative 6 times negative 8 equals positive 48. Alright, so when we have two-step equations, the first thing you need to do is combine any like terms that are present. Right? If they're there, that's the first thing you have to do. Then we're thinking reverse order of operation. So our PEMDAS, instead of going parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, we go backwards. So we are going to add and subtract before we multiply and divide. Alright, don't think so much about the parentheses and exponents because that has more to do with distributing, and you are going to do that first. But in terms of solving, we're always sort of working from the outside in. So we have to peel away the layers before we can get to the x. So that's why we end up adding and subtracting before we can multiply and divide. Okay, so for example, to get to this x, I want you to think of it like a present that's wrapped up. So before you can open this box right here, you have to take off the wrapping paper. Okay, so let me rewrite this real quick. First thing I'm going to do is subtract 5 from both sides, because I can't get to the x until all of that is gone. Then I'm left with x over 2 equals 11 minus 5 is 6. And now to get x by itself, because it's being divided by 2, I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides, and I get x equals 12. And again, I can plug it back in to make sure. So 12 divided by 2 plus 5 equals 11. Well, 12 divided by 2 is 6, plus 5 is 11. Alright, and another type of two-step equation. This time we have like terms. So the first thing we have to do is combine those. Remember, if the coefficient isn't written there, that means that it's a 1. So we're just doing 5y minus 1y, and we get 4y equals negative 16. And now we can divide by 4 on both sides, and y is negative 4. And let's plug it back in to make sure. So 5 times negative 4 minus, okay, well, negative 20 plus 4 is negative 16. So we're good. And that's it for this section.